Hey everyone, welcome to Our Small Footprint. My name is Nyssa. If you're new here, we are a large family living off-grid in Australia. It is Monday morning. Now, so far, this new routine, I haven't figured out a routine of when I release the videos. We will get there. We will have a set day and time where these weekly videos will come out, and then we'll have surprise ones, I think. I think that's how it's going to work. We will start a video on a Monday, finish it on a Sunday. Like, I will start filming it on a Monday, finish it on a Sunday. We get what we get out of the whole week in the kitchen, and then I release it. And then any other in-between videos we get in between. So like we just had the grocery shopping video, but the last week would have finished yesterday, so I should edit that up and get it out this week at some point. Do we have a preference for days and times that I put things out? I used to put them out at 7:30 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. But varied days. But I did put like the grocery video out, I put at 5:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time on Friday. But if anyone has any preference for times, let me know and we'll see. That you can get some statistics on YouTube as to when your viewers are more likely to be online, but I think it's very skewed because if I always release my videos at a certain time, then of course my viewers are going to be online at that time. So I don't know what suits, but we need to get scheduling down because it would do me good to do so. But I think what I'll do is I'll just film the week. I'll film from Monday morning through to Sunday on each week, and then we'll make that into whatever video it is ends up being, and like, you know, whatever timeline. Some of them are going to be shorter, some of them are going to be longer. It just depends on what I do that week, how much food I've got to prep. Though, you know, I always have a fair bit, but you know, anyway. So it is Monday, and this is a follow-on from last week's video, and where I left it off last night is I had done a whole bunch of chicken. I cooked 1 lot for dinner, and I have 3 lots left. So first thing this morning is that I need to get the chicken sorted. So I have 3 lots of chicken thighs, 2 kilo bags each. One has a miso marinade, one has a cowboy candy marinade, and one has a red curry satay marinade. The red curry satay one is cut into strips because I'm going to use that for satay chicken, and I thought that would work, and I really like that in rice paper rolls and things like that too, or in sushi or whatever. So I cut that into strips. I will cook that off on the stove top because it's in strips, but I left the other 2 bags in whole thighs, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick them in the smoker. So I've done some research. I haven't done chicken thighs in the smoker before, especially not skinless, boneless ones. I did some research, and what I saw was that most people rolled them back into a tight sort of a ball, which is fine, rolled the thighs back up, and then they smoke them. Chicken apparently takes on smoke quite well, so I've got the pellet smoker going and warming up, and we're going to do half an hour at a lower temperature at, say, 110 Celsius maybe, and then we're going to kick it up to, say, 150 maybe for an hour or an hour and a half. So we'll get that first initial slow smoke to get the chicken to absorb the smoke and create a skin, and then we will finish cooking it through at a little bit of a higher temp so that the smoke isn't absorbed as much. We're going to give it a go anyway. We all really like smoked stuff, so even if the smoke is a little heavy, I think it'll be fine, and it's not like we're going to be eating most of this chicken straight. It's going to be with stuff, so like some of it would be really nice with baked mac and cheese, or with any sort of pasta. I want to do that zucchini pasta again, the zucchini caramelized onion pasta, so I think it would be nice with that, or, you know, whatever. So we're just going to cook it. So side note, because we're starting a new video here, I am going to cook it before I freeze it because it's short dated. I just didn't get to it since the groceries, and I don't want to freeze it raw, because then you've got the timeline where you have to defrost it before you cook it, and I don't want to risk there being too long a timeline in there. So I marinated it yesterday with the intent to cook it today. Now, I have these racks. These are from an old dehydrator that we don't have anymore, a full-size one. My new Bench Foods one only uses half-size racks, so I can't use that in these, in that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to load the chicken on these here on my bench, and then just place the trays in the smoker, rather than trying to load the smoker trays, which are already preheating. And that way I can roll it up and make it all nice and neat on these, and then take these out to the smoker. I'm not sure how much space I'm going to need. I washed 3 of them. We'll see how we go. So I'm going to get the chicken out and we'll see. I also have a bit of overproof dough here that I'm letting do another quick lift for focaccia. So I'm actually going to throw this in the proofing box because it's just a little bit chilly outside. I didn't realize, but the banana bread from yesterday was being stored in the proofing box because it's a nice sealed container. I'm going to slice this up before I get any chicken out and get this in a container for, they've already had some for breakfast, but for later on. All right, so banana bread's cut up and put away. Bread and starter are in the proofing box. Let's get this out in the smoker. The other thing I thought was that I've got the end of my last batch of 5 kilos of garlic left from Nikki sitting here, and the smoked garlic butter emulsion we have pretty much used all of. It's something that we use a lot, so it might be worth me doing what's left there and hoping that Nikki has more left and I can order some more from her. We shall see. All right, so some of these pieces are smaller than others. Actually, this is the satay, and I cut it into chunks. I can smell that now. Picked the wrong one out. Let me wash my hands. I didn't realize that. I thought I cut that in strips, but I only cut it in pieces, so I probably could marinate it, smoke it if I wanted. I don't know whether it would be good or bad in the end. Not sure. All right, so let's get this all lined up fairly close together because we want it to stay nice and moist. I did notice this has got my homemade miso in it, and I did notice that I mustn't have crushed all the soybeans quite as well as they needed to be because there is some chunks of soybean in it, which isn't an issue, but is interesting. So, all right, so that's one tray, and that's the miso one. Kavik wants to show you the latest, this is the latest thing that Sonnet crocheted, which is a little strawberry themed frog for Kavik to play with. He was hanging around waiting for me to show you. All right, so then the other one, I'm going to make a bit of a mess, but I'll just clean it up as I go, is the cowboy candy paprika one, which I think will take on the smoke really nicely. Just going to map, so it looks like some of the dried spices piled up at the front there, which is pretty normal. So again, I'm just going to roll it all up. Now, I'm not entirely sure if 2 of these racks will fit on one of the smoker racks. I have to test that out. But otherwise, they'll have to go, one will have to go underneath the other one, and I'll just try and put them to the side enough so they don't drip on each other, but I'm not overly concerned. I'm going to have to scrub up to my elbows after this. I just managed to flick marinade in my face too. Anyway. Bulk chicken prep is never my favourite thing, honestly. It's just messy. All right, now we're keeping it all pretty close and tight together because I want it to retain the moisture. So when I do a stick poke, when I stick my, I could stick one in preemptively, I suppose. Should have taken my watch off because I've just had to wash all the band and all the thing, and which means that it's gonna irritate my skin. Oh well. I've got spare bands. Maybe I should swap the band out. What am I doing? Let's see how this fits in the smoker. But I was going to put a probe in it. The probe's on charge on my desk. I need to grab that. I'll need to spot check it as well with the instant read. But let's do this and just, it gives me an ambient temperature as well, because the ceramic part will read the ambient temp too. So if I stick it right in the middle here and get it as much into flesh as possible, and then probed into the next one too, and maybe I'll show a bit there so that it's covered, and that will give me an ambient temp on the smoker too. The smoker has digital ambient temps, but I find that these are a little more accurate. All right, so I was a bit slack with the garlic and I didn't rebag it how I should have, and it's been sweating a little bit. I've got a few that have some significant roots on them. I'm going to plant them. I have a big round planter bucket thing that I'm trialing, so there's, you know, not many there, but there's some that have already sprouted. I'm not going to be growing garlic for my own consumption. I just cannot grow enough for myself. I've tried. It's never worked. Otherwise, the rest of this is still looking fine, if a little bedraggled. So what I'm going to do is I've filled 2 of these half trays. These are ones for the bench foods dehydrator, because the wide ones that I've just put in the smoker, there's not enough room for another wide one, but I think one of these narrow ones would probably fit beside it. So I'm going to put these 2 beside the chicken, and I'm going to smoke these. Now, I probably won't run the smoker long enough to cook it all the way through, because I don't need to run it that long for the chicken, but what I'll do is I'll smoke it the whole time the chicken's smoking. It'll pick up all the smoke, and then I'll finish cooking it off in the oven or whatever. I also leave the skins on them to protect the garlic, so that it's got a bit of protection to the smoke, to the heat, which also means that sometimes it doesn't catch as much smoke as it could, but it catches enough. So I'm just going to load these into the smoker. Then I'm going to go through the rest of what I've got left here. I might do a little confit. I might just do a small garlic confit with this. Keep a few of the bigger rounds and stuff that are still in really good condition out for fresh, but I did grate a bunch of this up and freeze it fresh, so I do have it in the freezer. I just can't get to it right this minute. I need to do a rejig of the freezers again, but I'm going to get this in the smoke first anyway. All right, bread is in the oven. Smoke is on, garlic's in the smoker. This is the satay chicken. I'm going to start cooking that off in the pan, and while I'm doing that, I'm going to start peeling this to make a garlic confit that we can then blend up. If you've got enough of a ratio of olive oil and you blend your garlic into the olive oil once it's a confit, you can store it in the freezer, because it's not safe to store it in the fridge with garlic in it. And it should be scoopable straight out of the jar. It should never get to so hard that you can't scoop it. So that's going to be the goal with this last little bit. So I'm just going to get a pan worth of this satay chicken going, and then we'll fry it off. Probably take 2 or 3 batches in the pan. All right, and with the garlic, all I'm going to do is squish it and peel it, trim it if need be, because it's been sitting there for a little bit. And we're just going to, I'll probably, because it's such big pieces and confit can take a while, and I'm going to blend it anyway, I'll probably quarter it. Just like that. So break it, peel it, take the very top rough bits off, and then we'll get them in a Dutch oven with some olive oil, and we'll make a confit. Alright, I've got a heavy bottom pot here. A smaller one would be better, but the smaller Dutch oven that I've got is dirty at the moment. So this one's clean, so I'm going to use this one. Now I'm just going to throw all this cut garlic in the bottom here, and I think I'm going to use some peanut oil. Olive oil works, the blended olive oil that I've got, because it's not pure olive oil, and it doesn't burn or anything, and it's fine. But I was thinking that I could potentially use any excess peanut oil, some of that in my chili oil, or in other cooking that requires the high smoke heat point. So like when I make this with olive oil, if I want to use this in a cooked thing, you need to make sure you don't burn the olive oil. Whereas if I do it in peanut oil, it means that I could use that scented peanut oil in just about anything, because peanut oil has a really high smoke point. Garlic in there, and then I have a big thing of peanut oil that I got from Costco, because I like to use I use peanut oil for my chili oils, and it worked out cheaper than the smaller containers. But in saying that, The smaller containers are really nice because when I make a batch of chili oil, I just use a 750ml container and all the ratios of everything to go with that, and it perfectly fits in 2 quart jars. So, you know, there is some benefits to that. So you're supposed to get this fully submerged so that all the garlic cloves are floating. You don't want them touching the bottom, because if they're touching the bottom, then you have the potential to burn the garlic, and you don't want that to happen. So you want, which is why I was thinking peanut oil would be good, because there is always excess oil, because you want enough oil for it to lift off the bottom. And by using peanut oil, I can use it for other high heat cooking. So we're going to get this on the stove. We're going to get it so you want lots of little tiny bubbles. And then you want to turn it down to the very lowest possible with a lid mostly over it. And cook it for like, I don't know, hour and a half, 2 hours. It really depends on how, these are really big garlic cloves. So we'll just let it sit. Now it is windy today, which is a bit of an issue. I'll have to surround the burner where I've got this on to try and make sure it doesn't get blown out, and I'll just have to watch it. I was just thinking about the fact that I still have just over half a box of tomatoes that need something done with them. And the garlic confit could be finished in the oven rather than on the stovetop. So maybe I will cut them up and stick them in a couple of roasting trays, and then I can put the garlic confit in the oven with the tomatoes while they're roasting with the lid on. And that way I'm using the whole oven space as well. I did contemplate too, because since I've got the smoker going, the chicken will be done shortly. I do have pork that I normally make the smoked pork roasts. Do I want to throw a pork roast in? Because that chicken wasn't really meant for eating for now, it's meant for putting away. Also contemplating that I want to make that zucchini pasta to eat with some of this chicken at some point, but we've got a lot of other things that need to be, like, we eat a lot more pastas towards the end of the month when we've got less fresh vegetables, so I don't mind so much using frozen vegetables and things like that in those items, like the pasta. So we still get our veggie fill, but it's basically pureed into things. So maybe what I need to do is grate up a whole lot of the zucchini as well and freeze it, because I can do the caramelized onion zucchini pasta with pre-frozen zucchini. And in saying that, on the next, squirrel from that thought was that I should do some zucchini slice up, because everyone loves that. So I might do that tomorrow morning. Might do zucchini slice tomorrow morning. Spifflicating myself on the fumes from the red curry chicken that's still cooking. Make zucchini slice tomorrow with some of the zucchini, because that would be good for the next couple of days while I'm at work. The kids will eat it, and I'll grate the rest of the zucchini when I'm doing that. I think that's what I'll plan for that. So I'll do zucchini slice tomorrow for lunch, and then the leftovers, I'll do a couple of slabs of it and freeze a large quantity of the rest of the zucchini. Depends on how it looks. It's been in there a week, and it generally lasts 2 to 3 weeks if I store it correctly in the fridge. And I do like to have it accessible to use for stir fries or whatever. But if it needs to be frozen, it needs to be frozen. I would much prefer to freeze it while it's peak than to risk it going bad and not being eaten at all. So, but that's going to be the plan for tomorrow, I think. Bread came out of the oven, so this is going to work well as while I'm getting the sourdough going, because I mixed this up last night and let it proof overnight, and then just grabbed it out this morning and spread it out in the tray and let it do its thing, and then dimpled and roasted and cooked it. So that works out well. If I cooked it in a slightly bigger pan, like a 9x13, instead of that was just a slice pan, then it would be probably thin enough to slice horizontally like the Turkish bread as a sandwich bread too. So that would work too. So I'm going to figure that out too. Now that the weather's a little bit more stable, we're getting down to only like between 7 and 10 overnight. So not very cold at the moment. It's very mild. It makes me worry a little bit about when it finally does cool down. But anyway. So yeah, chicken's almost done. The other chicken is in the smoker. Its internal temperature is sitting about 48, 50. So it's got a little while to go. The garlic's in there too. So now let's do those tomato trays up. I think that's a good idea. I think the tomatoes will go bad before anything else. I also have mushrooms here that I buy mushrooms mostly for Darryl. He's pretty much the only one who really eats them. I like them in things, like I like them minced up into bologneses, or I don't mind them sliced really finely in some creamy pasta dishes, or stroganoffs and things like that. But I'm not a huge fan in general. But when we did the shelf cleaning up, I've got 2 big half-gallon jars full of dried mushrooms. I really don't need any more dehydrated at the moment. I canned some, and he's not hugely fussed on them. He'll eat them, but they're not, like, I was hoping that he'd almost like them as a snack, but that's not the case. He does love mushroom salt, which uses dehydrated mushrooms, but again, I've got a lot of dehydrated mushrooms at the moment. So I think I'm just going to freeze them. It means that they're no longer good for eating as, in things as a mushroom, more as a minced up to use as a flavour base, but that's fine too. I'll use them in the next bolognese or something. I think that's the best bet. They're not going to get used enough. SD card ran out. I will cook some up for him for lunch today to have with some chicken or something from leftovers from last night or something. But yeah. That's one of the big things about using whatever you buy. Like, so the mushrooms were cheap, and Darryl loves fresh mushrooms. So I paid sort of similar amount for the box of mushrooms as I would have just for like a 2 or 500 gram punnet or a 500 gram punnet from Costco or whatever. So of course I'm going to buy the box because it's worthwhile, but then you have to make sure you use it. There's a big thing about the way that it works when you're buying seasonally or in bulk or whatever else, is there's this process to buying things and sitting there going, well, I don't have set plans for that. I haven't made a meal plan because I didn't know what I was going to get. So the meal plan isn't there for that. I could keep some out and make a stroganoff. I could do that. I have to find there's some diced beef in the top of the fridge, I think, in the freezer. I could pull that out. The pork does still have plenty of date on it. It's got the 24th, so it's still got 9 days on it. So I could put that off till this weekend. Maybe I'll do that. Because once you crack open the vacuum seal, you have to use the whole roast. So if I crack open the vacuum seal and I use half of it to smoke, I have to do something with the other half. And I don't really need to. I've got plenty of other stuff that needs to be eaten. So I might put that off till the weekend. It's in the very bottom of the chest fridge, which runs really cold. Like, if anything, things get icy on the bottom. So I think I'll leave that. Maybe I'll pull some diced beef out of the freezer. Put aside a bunch of mushrooms for that. And a handful to go in the zucchini slice tomorrow, and then freeze the rest. Thinking out loud. But I think that's what I'm going to do. But first, I was going to do this tomatoes so that I could get this confit into the oven. I also need to think about lunch. The kids are in class at the moment, but it's 11:45. Darryl's playing D&D this morning, which is why I'm getting all this done, because once he's free, we'll get more of the kitchen done. But yes, I haven't frozen the tomato soup from the other night yet, and I've got that fresh bread, so maybe I'll do tomato soup and bread. Let's get these trays of tomatoes done first. So I'm going to do the same thing I did last time. I've just used all that garlic in the confit, mind you, so there'll be no fresh garlic in it, but I do have some onions here. So all I'm going to do is take the cores out in quarters and put them in roasting trays. And then we'll roast it off, and then I will probably just can it as roasted tomatoes, honestly, because we just had soup. I've already got bolognese in the freezer. I just don't really have anything that's particularly needed or the time to do it. I did sort out the shelves. I have about 10 jars of salsa on the shelf and about 12 jars of pizza sauce. So that is something that is getting lowish, but not enough for me to want to spend the time to do that today. So I think what I'll do is, if I can score some cheap, this might be the last cheap tomatoes I get for this until it warms up again. It's already a bit chilly for me to have expected to get $10 boxes of tomatoes. That was pretty significant. So we will see, but I'll keep that in mind, that if there is some decently priced tomatoes, I'm even happy to pay up to $30 a box if they're good quality. These are really nice. So these were quite ripe in the box. They got good texture, but sometimes in winter the tomatoes aren't great, so I won't pay top price for, you know, partially green, not so great tomatoes. They're much better in summer when I'm making salsa and stuff from them, because they're so much richer. But we'll see. You never know, I might actually get some tomatoes growing this year. All that garden stuff is to come. We will see how we go. I'm not getting my hopes up too much, because the last few years the gardens have just been so bad. It's just been so depressing and disappointing. So aiming low this year with the hopes of just having some moderate success would be nice. But anyway, I'm going to fill a couple of trays, because if I want to get that confit in as well, I can only do 2 unless I put the other rack in the oven. But if I put the second rack in the oven, it really doesn't heat very evenly, so I prefer not to, unless I'm going to be sitting here and rotating trays, and I just, yeah, can't guarantee that I can do that, because once Darryl is free, the plan is to keep work on all this kitchen stuff. So I want to be available to do that. We have to stain some bits and pieces. We have to cut some bits and pieces. We're still getting there. I look forward to updating you all. But anyway, I fill a couple of trays like this. I'm keeping an eye on the chicken out in the smoker through my app. So I've got an app that links to the thermometers, the temperature probes, and I've got an app that links to the smoker. So I keep an eye on both and compare the two of them. And yeah, just plodding further through. All right, so I've left a fruit basket full of just nice looking tomatoes. They can be left for eating. And then I've got 2 full trays, bit of salt, bit of oil. Now, I think this is a good plan, because I cannot keep the garlic confit at a low enough temperature to just simmer without the flame going out. So I'm going to find a lid for that and stick both of these and that in the oven, 160 odd. I like to do these low and slow anyway, and then I'll kick the temperature up right at the end to get some charring. All right, this is the focaccia-esque bread. Cutting it up for soup. It's really nice. It's one of those like really spongy type textures, and it's soft, crispy on the outside. Works really well. So just going to cut this up for having with the leftover soup. I've got some grated cheese, and we'll do sour cream as well like normal, so we'll do that. I'm going to send some up to Mum, and then I'll come back and keep on going. All right, I went out to check the smoker. One of the trays of chicken, one of the sides was a little bit too close to the edge, and these 3 pieces are a little over temp, so I pulled them out, and we can try those ones. Some of them aren't quite up to temp, so I've just left it for the moment. Now the garlic's all starting to come away from its skin, and it's not quite soft, but it's softened. But I don't want it to get too crispy, because we're going to blend this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw it all into a baking tray. I'm going to drizzle it with a little bit of oil, cover it in foil, and then let it cook down further till it's soft and easy to blend without getting too crispy on the outside edges, rather than using the smoker for it, because it will have absorbed all the smoke that it can in the amount of time it was in there. And the chicken should be ready shortly too. So I've got the oven going with the confit and the tomatoes in it. So I'll just add this to that and use the heat of the oven that's already going. Chicken wise, this chicken's probably a little overcooked, these pieces, but it's thigh, so it's tolerant of that. But I do like how it's got all the marinade rolled into the chicken as well. So nice dark meat. It still seems pretty juicy, but these ones definitely are a little higher temperature internal than they needed to be. So we'll just keep on chugging. So this was the
chicken out of the smoker. I don't know if I would do it again this way with these smaller thighs because it was really hard to get it to temperature without getting the edges a little overcooked. So some of these bits here are definitely overcooked around the edges of the point, but it's still nice and juicy. They're just, those outside edges are a bit tough and chewy. Not necessarily a bad thing. We'll slice it all up and it'll work. But the miso one here actually plumped up really nicely with that vinegar-based marinade. So regardless, it's tasty. So this was what we did this particular time.
Right. I was going to say, do I need to try these out for you?
Do you need to try them out for me? You did try the other ones. Did you want to try the miso one? No.
Try the miso one. I mean, it might be terrible. I'd like to eat the entire tray just to save you guys from...
Save us from ourselves. Yeah.
Just eat all
It
that.
does create a bit of a tough smoked skin to it, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just a thing.
No, it's terrible. Well, just let me eat this. I'll do it for you.
Yeah, Darryl's volunteering to eat the whole lot just because it's so terrible. So
Yeah.
anyway, this is that done. All right, so it is now 3:20. We have been doing all sorts of things as once Darryl finished his D&D game. So he's been sanding a bench and stuff. So we've had lots of loud noise and stuff, and I've been doing what I need to do in between. So the chicken I've got in containers. I'm going to stick them in the fridge. I couldn't find the lids for the containers. That is part of what we're figuring out with the whole change of the kitchen. But anyway, so I've just got them Glad wrapped and they'll go in the fridge. I will slice them up once they are cold because that makes them hold moisture better. If you wait for something to cool before you slice it. And then I will vacuum seal and freeze it probably. And then it can be quick defrosted in a bit of warm water. The vacuum seal bags can go quick defrosted in a bit of warm water before being fried off, or slow defrosted if we're eating it cold, but generally speaking we warm it back up. And then we have all that seasoned, flavoured, cooked chicken. Now, I have the satay chicken that I cooked today as well. That's in the fridge. So I have to decide what I'm doing for dinner. It's all just too hard now. It's getting too late. But before that, so the garlic confit that I started off on the stove and then put in the oven, obviously was running the oven a little warm. So when I checked on it, it's a bit caramelized. Now, this isn't necessarily a bad thing. All right, so this is what happened with my garlic. You can see that there's a bit of it's hard to see on the camera. It's not as bad as it looks. A bit of a scum around the edge, which is where the garlic has cooked, and you can see the garlic is completely caramelized. Now, it smells a little bit like satay, I suppose, because it's peanut oil. The smell of the peanut oil really comes through, and then there's that garlic, this caramelized garlic. So I still might try pureeing some up in this oil. Or maybe I add it to, so the roasted garlic, the smoked and roasted garlic has turned out quite well. Where's my tea towel? It's all done now. And I added a little bit of ghee into this when I put it in the oven so that it would have some moisture so that some of those crunchy bits would soften, and it's worked perfectly. And then I can just blend this ghee. But maybe I blend this with the caramelized garlic and the little bit of peanut oil that comes out of it, and then some butter, and we have, I think I'm going to do that. We're going to have this beautiful caramelized, nutty, smoky, roasted garlic butter. I think that's going to be perfect. So I'm getting a little bit of oil out with it, but I'm draining most of it. We've got that bit of ghee in here as well, and then I will use some actual butter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to puree up. I don't know how much I've ended up with here. I should grab my spider out for the rest of it so I don't take too much oil. So we've got this heavily caramelized garlic, this smoky, soft garlic, and the other thing that's finished is the tomatoes. So we've got 2 full trays of these lovely roasted tomatoes, which are easier if I canned them hot, but I really don't think I've got the energy to wash jars at the moment. because I can just stuff it straight in the jars as is. Ugh. I've had enough, but I still need to do stuff. I got 2 trays of these. I'm just going to put this back in the oven for the moment. It's off, the pilot light's just on, but it's just protected from bugs and stuff. And puree this up because it'll be easier to puree when it's hot. So I'm just going to put should be able to do all of it at once and then split it into 2 with when I add the butter to it, I think. So let's puree this up first and see what it looks like. That's like pretty amazing. That's basically just pureed smoked garlic. I think I don't know. The garlic with the butter is what we really like, isn't it? All right, so we've ended up with about 1.5 kilos of pureed roasted smoked garlic. I might I've got this block of the Devondale butter left from last shop. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this 500 gram block in here, and then 500 grams of garlic, and we will emulsify that, and then I have to decide. The plan was to puree some with olive oil, emulsify some with olive oil, because olive oil doesn't go solid in the freezer, and then I could have oily garlic spread as well. So let's do this one first, and we'll do equal parts butter to garlic, and we will blend this. All right, now we've got this beautiful butter emulsion. I am going to add some sugar though. It's got just a tiny, that slightly overcooked confit and stuff. It's got this tiny hint of burn. So I'm just going to add that little bit of sugar, which will compensate for it. I also added a little bit of salt. It was salted butter. Add a little bit of salt. If I had some fresh parsley, I would definitely add it, but I don't.
Parsley.
Pardon?
What's parsley?
A herb, green herb, but we don't have any at the moment. We have plenty of rosemary.
Do you want some?
Nah, but rosemary is probably a little harsh for this kind of a thing. Parsley is a nice gentle one. So I'm just going to quickly emulsify with that bit of sugar in there so that it breaks down. And then this one will be done, and then Sonnet might grab me some of the silicone things that we normally put the garlic butter in. I got a thumbs up, so. Alright, so that's all blended through, and as I said, it's this lovely fluffy butter emulsion. So I'm going to get this into the silicone and into the freezer. So I think I'm just going to puree this with the the other kilo of the pureed garlic, and then put it in maybe a big wide container to freeze, or a couple of them, and then see in a couple of days if I can just like scoop teaspoonfuls of it out, because it is peanut oil, so it can be fried with, like, you don't want to burn the garlic either. But yeah, so I think I'm going to give that a go anyway. So all I'm going to do is pour it into there's a little bit of the butter emulsion left in here, which is fine. Now the capacity of a Thermomix jug is about 2.2 litres, so I'm going to be pushing its capacity, but I'm going to give it a go and see if I can get this to emulsify. But I might have to pull some out and put some back, sort of thing. We'll see how we go. I still don't know what I'm doing for dinner either, and my mic and my camera are both in the red battery life, so we will see how we go. Being my ratios were what they were, we're never going to get a true emulsion out of this, but in saying that, it's it's not bad. It's like a smoky minced garlic in oil, and it's actually really tasty. Very, very nice. So freezing this, it's 2 litres of it. It's a lot of work. I was hoping to just put it in jars maybe and then scoop it out of jars, but I'm not 100% sure whether it's going to be scoopable or not with the ratios that are there. I'd like to think it is, but I could be disappointed. So let's hedge our bets. I bought these a couple of shopping trips ago, and these little ones have 9 30 odd mil squares. So what do we got? 3, 6, 9 by 30, 270 mils per. So 4 of these will give us about a litres worth, which will halve this. So I'm going to do the 4 containers of these. These have a nice rigid lid, which is why I bought them. They're silicone though, so they should be easy enough to pull out. And each one should theoretically hold about a tablespoon. This tablespoon obviously is undersized, but yeah, so I will, it must be a 15 ml tablespoon. So I'm going to fill these, and then I'm going to put some wide mouth jar in some wide mouth jars and see what it does. And then that way, if it does set solid, I've got some that are easily accessible, because I'm going to have to defrost the other jars and swap it out. And what I'll do is I'll use these first, and then I will defrost the jars and put them in these instead, sort of thing. So yeah, hedging bets here. So if it stays semi-scoopable, then brilliant. If it doesn't, I've got these to use, and then I will refill these afterwards. So that's all I'm doing. So this is the peanut oil and garlic mix in 1 ounce 30 ml-ish cubes. And I'll put some in jars, and I'll let you know how it goes with the whole setting up thing. And I'm just agitating this as I grab these spoonfuls out to make sure that I get plenty of the garlic solids as well as the oil liquid. It really is quite tasty though. Probably be really nice in noodles and stuff, which you could do with just these little cubes. But then we also have the issue that if it isn't going to freeze solid, then these cubes are going to be really awkward. But I think in this small amount it would freeze solid regardless. I think the idea is that in the jar sizing and that there's enough of a quantity that it won't, but I have no idea. Haven't done it, so we will see. So I'm just going to keep going. So I just sterilized a couple of these Dijon jars. I kept these when we were cleaning out stuff, because I really like the shape of them. They're nice and wide, and we will see how we go. And they fit the 32 ml lids. So let's try and make sure that there's an even amount of solids versus liquids between these two. This might separate in the freezer too, I don't know. I'll have to wait and see. This one definitely seemed to have more solids in it though. Now, because I'm freezing it, we want to make sure that we leave plenty of headroom for expansion. So I'm actually probably going to pull a bit out of this one, this liquid bit at the top. Make sure it's under the neck of the jar there, and a little bit extra that I've got in here I'll scrape out and use. So we got plenty of headroom in these for expansion. Preferably you want not a narrowing of the jar. but I don't think that this will expand or freeze solid anyway. But when I put it in the freezer, I might put it just inside a little container just in case, because it is a little bit of an odd shape for freezing, but I just didn't have anything I could easily find that was the right shape. So we're going to give this a go. It is Tuesday and I'm getting a much later start than I wanted, but let's get going. All right, first up, I'm going to mix up some of the brioche dough. I'm going to mix up, I don't know, I might do we'll just do one of the double batches that makes like 2 rolls of scrolls, or 1 tray of sliders and a roll of scrolls, or whatever. The plan was to make an apple scroll because I've got that cream cheese to make cream cheese icing. So the cinnamon apple scroll, which will be really good for me to take work too. I don't really know, but let's make up a batch of that first. Do I want to make 2 batches? Do I want to make normal bread? I'm a little lost. Let's just start with a single batch first, get that mixed up and in a container so it can start proofing, and then we're going to move on to the zucchini slice. So I just want to proof this dough while I'm doing the zucchini slice, and then we'll go from there. So we're just going to do the normal brioche style. I'll hold back a little of the hydration because I'm probably going to scroll all this up. I think I'll just make 2 lots of scrolls out of this. I don't really know, but I think I'm going to hold back a little hydration because it makes it a little bit more versatile for that purpose. So I need coconut cream, some warm water. Now, the kitchen is in a massive state of flux. It is going to be so great once it's done, but at the moment everything is covered in sawdust. The Berkeys are on the complete opposite side of the patio at the moment for water purposes. I've got my sink here, and we have hot water to the sink now, which is fantastic. But the drinking water Berkeys are over that side. So all my Thermomixes are still not on this bench yet because I still don't have power to this bench either. The KitchenAid as well. So we're going to sort the dough out, then we're going to put it over on the KitchenAid. And I've got my graters here for the zucchini slice, but I'm going to have to grate everything over there as well. So let's get this mixed up first. Currently working on deciding what side of storage I'm using on my shelves, because the problem at the moment is that some of the jars, because it's an open kitchen, some of the jars just don't work. It's just too dusty and dirty. And like a lot of these clip top jars, which I have a lot of, this one's not too bad, but these seals, the metal all around here, they just get full of grime, and to clean them you have to pull the whole thing apart, and then you have to get it completely dry before you can use it again. And sometimes if it sits on a shelf waiting to be used, it's filthy by the time you need to use it, which is why the mason jars work really well for storage, because they're just so much easier to clean. So I have to decide what I'm going to do with some of the stuff that I'm storing. I really like the IKEA jars. These ones, I bought half a dozen of these. I would fill my pantry with these. The lids are barely recessed. They're super easy to clean. They don't do them anymore. They do not stock these jars anymore. Like, so sad. Because I went looking, because Mum's going to do an order for her kitchen stuff, and I thought, I'm going to get those. I'm going to buy a dozen or more of those, and they're going to be my primary mid-range storage, and then I've got my buckets for the large storage, and they've discontinued them. All right, so I've got warm water. It's not hot, but it's well and truly warm because that coconut cream is cool. I'm adding my oil, which is also cool. And the temperature is fairly cool. So that way, if I start with warm water, then that works well. So we've got our oil in there. Now we're going to add our water, and the water is where we back off a little bit. So we leave the same amount of oil, the same amount of coconut cream and everything, but we back off on the water. And then we're going to add our flour, and we'll mix this up. Dough hook need it for a good 5 to 10 minutes, depends on how long I get bored with leaving it, but being a brioche dough, the longer you can leave it, the better. Okay, so dough is mixing. Now, zucchini slice, I work on ratios. So, weight-wise, I'm going to use, I got this frozen ham that it defrosts okay, but it doesn't defrost great because it ends up watery. So what I found is it works really well for the zucchini slice. So I mince up some in the Thermomix and it works. Oh, why am I cutting that? I'm going to grate it. And it works really well as a add-in. Okay, so thank you. I had, my scales were flat and the screen was really, really pale. So I got Apollo to put new batteries in it. So what we do is we do about 400 grams of vegetables per batch. 600 probably in total, including your rasher, your bacon and everything else, or ham or whatever you're using. So what we do is we start with, let me get a bowl. We start with an amount and then we figure out how much we're making, pretty much. I need to tear this. Goodness me. Let's just see. I grabbed 8, I think. Alright, so we've got 1.2 there. We're going to add an onion, which we will also grate. We will add some mushrooms. I need to freeze the rest of those mushrooms, but I will cut these really, really fine dice. They add good flavour, but we don't want the texture of them. No, most of us aren't huge fans of mushrooms. Don't mind them in things, but don't really want slices of them. So we got 1.5. Can you grab me a big carrot? We'll add a carrot in there as well. Maybe 2. Grab 2 out just in case. So then if we got carrot and then our ham, and look at that, 2.409. So perfect. So that is 4 lots of the 4 trays, which means we will need 24 eggs to go with this amount. And then it can be split between 4 different baking trays. So I'm just going to get all this grated up and mixed together first, and then we'll add the rest of the ingredients. So that dough's done, lovely and not quite window pane, but close. So that's just going to sit in there for now. Where'd I put the lid? To proof, I do have my proofing box here, so I will stick it in there. And now I'm going to take this over and run this through the Thermomix grater. Right, so I've grated all this up. I used thick and thin so that we've got some different textures, and I minced all that ham up as well. We're going to add cheese, and we want about a cup per batch, and remember we've got 4 batches here, so we want about 460 odd grams of grated cheese. I'm just using the pre-shredded stuff. Flavor, it's more texture than flavor in this dish, so I don't see the point in using any sort of heavily flavored cheese because you don't taste it through it anyway. It's just, yeah, it's more about texture than anything else. And the kids used to have it without cheese, so, you know, we used to just add some nutritional yeast and things like that, and the texture wasn't quite as good, but it worked. So they're lucky to be getting cheese now. So we want about 460 in cheese. All right. Now we also need to add some flour, which again is about a cup per. So about the 150 grams per. So 600 grams of flour. About 4 cups of flour. 600 grams. Now, I like to add all these dry in and coat all the veggies and then add the eggs. That's just the way that I like to do it. I do it the same for okonomiyaki. So, flour, we want some baking powder. And we're just going to add, I don't know, 10 grams per maybe. So 40 grams all up, which is, you know, 2 teaspoons per batch there. And then we just need to add the eggs. So I need 6 eggs per batch. So we're going to do 24 eggs. So I'm going to crack all of those. I'm going to mix this up first and coat all these veggies. I didn't squeeze my zucchini. I don't find it necessary in this this dish. So I do squeeze my zucchini for things like zucchini fritters because I want them to be really nice and crispy. But you want moisture in something like this. So you just compensate in other ways. Like there's no other liquid other than egg in here. So we're just going to coat that like that. And then I will crack my eggs and mix that through as well, and then we will get 4 trays out. I don't think I can fit 4 trays in my oven at a time, mind you, unless I put the other rack in. I could do that, but let's get the eggs in here first. I might turn the oven on to preheat though. Alright, so we got 24 eggs. Now obviously because they were home laid eggs, I cracked them all individually into bowls and then added them to my main bowl, because otherwise you risk all your eggs. I should turn that oven on to preheat. So I'm just going to break them all up. Doesn't need to be perfect, but breaking up the egg yolks just makes it easier to mix through the rest of it. And then we just pour it into our mix. I always find it easiest to go in with my hands. Some people hate that about the way I cook, but that's life. Now, I didn't add any garlic to this because I didn't have any fresh or any salt or pepper. Now, there's ham and all that cheese in it, so it probably doesn't need any salt. You can always add some flake salt to the top of it, but I might add a little bit of garlic powder and a little bit of pepper. All done. Now we're going to put it into 4 trays, bake it, take about 45 minutes at about 180. And we have zucchini slice for today, tomorrow, probably the next day as well. And it will be delicious, so I'll show it to you when it's done. All right, something I didn't get finished yesterday was those roasted tomatoes. All I'm going to do, I'm going to quickly steam can them. So I've got some quart jars here. Might only need 3 worth, but it's a good quantity that I can use it for whatever. And so I'm just going to put them in there and squish them in. And then they will be useful for whatever I want to use them for. I probably should add a little bit of lemon juice or something to them because the onion ratio is quite high. But we'll see. Now I may only get a jar per tray, I don't know. All right, I'm just going to use the back end of a clean wooden spoon. Let's start with that. It's most of the tray, but we'll see how far we can stretch this. And we'll pour the liquid in the top of each jar. So we're just going to use the end to debubble the jars as well and make sure that we've got good headspace. I'm dirtying the rims up a bit here, but that's fine. I might need just a pint jar for the last of it. So we're just debubbling, making sure that we got the right headspace. So those 3 are fine, but it's not going to fill another quart, but it should fill a pint. Not even a full pint. I might puree that up and use that for something with the savoury dough scrolls or something. So I've got the 3 here. So I'm just going to clean these off, clean the rims off and stuff, get lids on them, and I'm just going to put them in the steam canner. 25 minutes, I think, for the tomato mix. I will just put a teaspoon of citric acid in the top of each of these and push it through just to make sure, because there is a fairly high ratio of onion in some of these jars. I didn't plan to can them, so I didn't take any notice of how much I was putting in. So I will do that, and then I will steam can these and get them out of the way. I ended up splitting it between the 3 containers rather than the 4 because 3 fits in my oven better, but also because it just felt like the right amount. Ended up being about 1,300 grams per, and it's you know, fluffy enough without being overly so. So this is what it looks like inside. And it's very hot, but will be super. So, oh, hot. So yeah, so fluffy but eggy in the middle. We don't use too much flour. It's less of a, you know, slice. It's more of an egg slice than anything else because we like to have the ratio of eggs higher. But yeah, that's what we've done. So there's 3 of those to be cut up and used over the next few days. All right, so the starter I'm culturing isn't quite there. You can see, hopefully you can see there's lots of bubbles and stuff in there. Hasn't quite doubled. That yellow line is around about double. It hasn't quite hit double, but I don't know whether it quite will because it's been a while and they don't, like, we're culturing it. It's still in progress. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to use a large portion of this all but the bottom scraping and refeed it, because that's the best way to keep them healthy, is to keep on giving them new food to eat. So especially when you're starting out. I don't know how many days it's been now that I've been using and refeeding. I can't remember. But so what I'm going to do is I've got half a tin of coconut cream here from that brioche dough. So I'm going to make up some more dough using this so that I can feed it. Do I know what I'm going to do with that dough? Not really. This scroll dough is almost done and ready to go. I don't know. We'll see. I suppose it depends on how quickly it proofs. It's only 1:15, so if I mix it up now and I use my hot box, then by this evening it could be the right temperature to shape and I can stick it straight in the bannetons in the fridge. So I might make some standard rolls, some standard loaves, but I'm just going to add a little bit of coconut cream into each one. So I might just do 2 of my standard sort of boulet batard type rolls. I might use the garlic oil in it. Maybe not. I might use the garlic oil in it. I am getting low on that, but I did find some other on the shelf. So hopefully it works as well as the first one that I'm using does. And yeah, just make 2 of those standard rounds and try and get it proofed. Keep my proofing box running for the afternoon. Swap the battery out if needed. I'm going to have power to it eventually, so it won't be such an issue to keep it running. But at the moment I'm using the Ryobi batteries, and because it's a 24 volt seedling mat, so it's a standard plug seedling mat, it has to run through an inverter on the Ryobi batteries. So even though it only draws like 30 watts, the actual inverter runs more than that. I don't know how many watts it takes, but it takes more than that just to power the inverter to run the cord. So the batteries only last for 3-4 hours at the most. They would last a lot longer if it wasn't converting that power, but it is. So, but that's what I think I'll do. All right, so this is refed. Now I'm not going to, like, yeasted doughs are just nice and easy and simple, and I'm still going to be doing them. But in winter, I do appreciate a nice crusty artisan loaf. And whilst I can make them with instant yeast, it's not quite the same as if they're made with sourdough starter. It just, because it's a longer process. So if I can manage to keep one going, I will. If I can't, I won't. But this is looking quite good considering it's only it's less than a week old. Because it was quite a good texture when I stuck it in the water, and it even floated. So we'll see how we go. Obviously, there's some good bacteria in the air at the moment. So yeah, we will cultivate it because we can, and I will use it when I want to, and I'll use my yeast when I want to, and we'll just, keep plodding along. So those 2 doughs are mixed up. I used about 20 grams of the garlic oil with about 90 grams of coconut cream, topped it up to about the 375, 400 worth of liquid. 375 was the goal, but I was a bit slap hazard. And then forgetting that I was adding the starter, instead of adding the 400 grams of flour, I bumped that up a little bit to compensate for the extra starter in there. So we'll see how it works. So these are just brought together to a shaggy dough. I'm going to let them sit for 20 minutes and then I will slap and fold. And I will do that as often as I remember to do it, which might be once, might be 5 times, who knows. And we will do that. So I just need to put some cling wrap. I run out of reusable shower caps, so I need to just use Glad wrap, and I need to pull the yeasted dough that I did this morning out to get those scrolls done. So I'm just going to tidy up first and make myself some space and get that done. Alrighty. Dough scraper. Okay. So I've just blended up some butter, cinnamon, molasses, sugar mix. And now we're going to roll out some cinnamon scrolls. I do 2 scroll batches out of each batch of this dough. So we'll just split it roughly in half. Like that. Place one back for the moment. And then get this one rolled out. All right. So just going to use a little flour and we're just going to smooth this out. Let it relax a bit as needed. And then get it all rolled out to about the size of this mat, of the white bit of this mat. I'm just going to let it relax a bit. I was wondering if I wanted to, do I want to do apple in these, or do I want to do like some pecans, or do I just want to do straight cinnamon? How lazy am I feeling? I do have some apple on the shelf, but I only have probably like 3 jars left, which is pretty surprising because I had so much apple on the shelf at one point and wasn't getting through it. Obviously I have been using it enough that we've worked our way through. When we rearranged parts of the kitchen, I got to see how much of certain things that I can were left on the shelves, which was nice. We have plenty of orange left. I do need to make that choc orange cake more often that uses the canned oranges, but I was going to try making like the choc orange brioche dough too, like the hot cross buns, but obviously outside of Easter, using the canned oranges. So I should try that as well. Choc orange brioche. I have to remember that. Next time I want a sweet bread to make, that's what I'm going to try. But in the meantime, we're just getting this somewhat uniform. It's bouncing back a lot. Probably could be proofed a little bit longer. I was saying to someone the other day that one of the benefits of having lots of children means that I can make lots of sweet treats, and I only need to eat 1 or 2 of them because I know that someone else will eat the rest of them. I think the last of the banana bread's already gone. I think I only had 1 slice of that. I sent 3 slices up to Mum, but I think I only had 1 slice of banana bread, which is fine. Somewhat beneficial for me to only be eating small amounts of all the sweet goods. All right, we're gonna just live with that. That is close enough. So what I might do is I'll pull out sort of half of this cinnamon mixture and we'll see if I feel like, yeah, see, I probably made more than enough of this to just do cinnamon. That is well covered. All right, hands are damp. Now let's just roll this one up. Can you grab some of the silver baking trays for me? Well, 2 of the deep ones, 2 of the shallow ones. So I've got tops and bottoms. Deep and shallow. What do you think deep and shallow means? Well, there's 2 different types. There's some that are deep and some that are shallow. So I want 2 deep ones, 2 shallow ones. Okay. Thank you.
This is, I think, this one's another deep one, I think, and this one's a deep one.
Thank you.
Hey, Mama, but you're not really using all the bread very much. Can I make this, okay?
Yeah, I'm making cinnamon rolls. You want any cookies?
You all feel fine?
Hmm?
You all feel fine?
Yeah.
Does it hurt when you put it in?
Stings a little bit, but no.
You know that time when you used the thing on your finger and it was bleeding a lot? It might have hit a vein.
Maybe.
In my vein!
Alright. We want...
That. Doop, 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 doop. Are you making chicken ones too, or just cinnamon? 18,
I have another batch of dough. I was just going to do 2 lots of cinnamon today.
Okay.
All right, we want about 20, so 5 rows of 4. So I've marked out approximately 20. And I like to use a serrated knife. They still get a little bit wonky, but I find it perfectly acceptable. And then I got my baking tray, and we place the ones on the ends are always just a little bit smaller, so I like to put them as the middle row, and then the ones in the middle further towards the outside. Alright, so they look pretty good, fairly even. So I got Kavik to get me the 2 different size pans, so I can then just place this one on top and let that do its second proofing, and then repeat the process with the second batch. Bit of extra cinnamon sugar powder that I'll put in the fridge, and the leftovers in here I will mix the cream cheese icing up in this, which will pick up all of that. So that's sorted. Buns are proofing. I just slap and folded the normal bread dough. So again, I'm gonna clean up and move on. I checked these, walked away for a minute to do something for Darryl, and came back, and they're probably just a touch overcooked, but near perfect cinnamon scrolls and cream cheese icing. So I'm going to give them just a minute to cool a little bit, and then I'm going to top them while warm, because I just really like that really ooey gooey type texture that they get. And I probably ended up with more icing than I needed, because I used that half brick of cream cheese and couldn't get the consistency right, so I had to bump everything up and add more. The other bread's almost done too, to be shaped and put in the fridge. It's 4 o'clock. The jars of tomato all sealed, so that's the jars of roasted tomato, so they are resting at the moment and then can go on the shelf. Dinner is the next thing. I think I'm going to do that zucchini pasta that I was talking about. I wasn't going to do it this point of the month, but I think I'm going to. And serve it with some of that miso chicken and then get the rest of the chicken in the freezer. But yeah, so that's the plan at the moment. Now, I really do like doing these warm. And I normally just sort of dollop some on each one and then spread it a little bit. One of the little tiny ice cream scoops I reckon would work really well, one of the little like 1 tablespoon ones. And then you could put just a tablespoon on each one. Let it melt a little bit and then spread. So I'm just going to do this and then I'm going to, as I said, let it melt a little bit and then I'll spread it out a little bit more and let them sit for 5 minutes. And then, you know, I probably won't be able to help myself, even though it's almost dinner time, to have one warm, because that's the best time to have them. But I'll probably start cutting up zucchini and getting that cooking, because the zucchini base for the pasta sauce takes a while, because we want to cook the zucchini right down into a sauce. So, yep, all right, I'm going to do this. And then I'll bring you back at some point. But I do need to shape that bread for the fridge too, don't I? Mostly done for the day. Now I've got some video editing and some D&D work to do tonight. And then I'm off to work tomorrow. I must admit, I am looking forward to the 2 weeks off. I know I only work 2 days a week. But man, those 2 days come around fast. Every week. They just, yeah. It's hard. I know. I got accused of whinging unnecessarily last time when I was complaining about working 2 days a week because, you know, people have to work more than that. And I get that. But still. Anyway. So, yes, this is starting to melt everywhere. So I just spread it a little bit so it seeps in to all the little nooks and crannies. Oh, perfect. So good. So bad, but so good. So bad for us. I so rarely make these with any sort of icing, and normally I would do them with apple or something so that they at least have some sort of pretense of being a treat with some sort of nutritional benefit. But hey, every now and again, you got to have the fancy treats that you want. And for me, it's currently the time of the month where I really want fancy treats. So, you know, let's make the most of it. It sucks being female sometimes, so we're just going to use the excuses that we have to make some of those times feel a little bit more pleasant. So there we go. Perfect. Yeah, and I'll bring you back. Good morning, everyone. It is Wednesday morning. It is a work day. Now, I did that bread yesterday, which I forgot to show you shaping. And I did add a few grams of yeast to it because I wasn't sure how the starter was performing yet. So it really needs to be cooked off. So I'm going to do that this morning while I'm out here making coffee. So it's 7:15. I have to leave by 7:30, which is fine. So we're going to now, I need to get myself some round proofers for these bread bakers, but for the moment all I've got is my Batard ones, and I do have cast iron Batard bread bakers, but they need a reseason, a good clean and reseason, because I haven't used them in a while, and outdoor kitchen, but this will be fine. I'm not sure where my lame is, so we're just using a serrated knife, which is a little bit less practical but will work. and I'll put these in the oven. Just before I leave, I will set an alarm. I will take the lid off and set an alarm for another 15 minutes, and then they can take these out and they can use these during the day. Some will go for dinner, I don't know. We'll see how we go. But other than that, that's going in now. Let's get the oven on. I didn't take any footage of dinner last night. We did the zucchini pasta, so I did caramelized onions, zucchini, a bit of cream, a bit of parmesan cheese, garlic butter, all that sort of thing, cooked down into a green sauce pasta, put through it. I'll show it to you in a minute in a bowl. I got some cinnamon scrolls to share to take to work with my boss, and then the pasta to take to work too. I'm just getting this oven on. There we go. Oven on. Bread in. Coffee cups. I've got the kettle going. And this is my lunch in my cute new Costco. So it's just green pasta. It's super tasty. I like these for serving sizes. Some of these glass containers, it's really easy to overfill them, even when you're trying not to. This is a good serving size. I don't need any more than this for lunch, so that works well. And I've been setting them up to mum like that too. So yeah, I'm just going to make our coffees how I normally do. We do ceramic pour overs. Everything is still a little, we just sanded back half the bench and restained it. So we can't use that half of the bench at the moment. So everything's cluttered again, which is the way it works. It'll be really nice once we get everything sorted in such a way that there's a station in every spot. So all the coffee stuff will be together, cooking stuff will be together, etc., etc. So we grind our own coffee beans. I'm lucky enough to have an electric grinder that was mum's from the cafe she used to run. So we just grind it as we go. So I'm just going to wash these. I'm going to do my coffee. We have a bit of cream and I have my sugar-free sweetener, whichever flavour happens to be open. Coffee, and then I'm going to head off. The bread won't be ready by the time I'm gone, so I won't be able to show you that. But yeah, work day today. It's 10 degrees out here. It's not overly cold, but it's chilly. Not too bad. It'll get to negatives out here at this time in the morning eventually, so it's better than it could be. But yeah, off to work for today. Alrighty, it is Friday morning. We're going to get this pork in the smoker. Now I'm going to put the whole thing in, I think. I'll cut it in two and do both pieces, and that gives us cold meat for the next few days as well. I have some dough that I tried with the starter overnight in the proofing box to see if I could get it to proof overnight. It hasn't done fantastically, so I might turn that into flatbreads to have with this later. I mixed up the pork spice, so this is brown sugar, paprika, garlic, mustard, onion, all those sorts of flavours, and I have Dijon. Now I must have forgotten to get the big Dijon at Costco again, and then I didn't buy more of the small ones either, so that's a bit of a bummer. I do have mustard seeds and I do need to make up some of my own mustard, but for the moment that's what I've got. So I'm going to take the rind off this like I normally do, and then sometimes we cook potatoes under it, and sometimes, can you pass me a bit of paper towel please? And sometimes the dogs get it as a treat. I'm just going to mop up some of the juices before I get out so I don't make as much mess on my bench. So all I'm going to do is get this out like I normally do. Anyone who's been around a while has seen me do it a few times, because this is the way that we really like these pork roasts. So these pork roasts are really versatile. I have another one in the fridge that I will use to mince up to make, normally I would make gyoza, except I don't have any gyoza wrappers, but I do have spring roll wrappers in the freezer, so I will probably use it to make spring rolls. Rinse it out a bit before it goes in the bin, please. So what I'm going to do is I've just sharpened up my knives as well and cleaned my bench. I'm going to, now do I want to, it's only 11 o'clock, so I should have plenty of time to do it in half. Sometimes I do it in thirds just to make sure that it cooks in the time that I have, but it's only 11 o'clock, so it should be fine to cook. So all I do is I take the ropes off and I keep them because I'm going to retie the pork up. So I take all the elastics off and we will tighten and retie those. And I'll just show you one and then I'll go ahead and do the other one as well. So then we just slice the rind off. Now, depending what I'm using the rind for, I do want a little bit of fat left on it for cooking potatoes, but I also want a fair bit of rind left on the pork because it helps to keep it nice and moist while it's being smoked. And Darryl loves those thick bits of fat once it's cooked as well. So there's a juggle of keeping enough on the rind that we can use it cooked over potatoes, whilst also keeping enough on the pork roast to keep it nice and moist and for Darryl to enjoy. So each piece is always a bit different with how much fat it has on it too. So we just take all of that off like that, and then we want to wrap this back up. So all I do is I tighten the elastics just a little bit, tie another knot a little bit further down, and then wrap it nice and firm like that. Tuck any bits of meat that have come off in the center. And get this all tied up like that. Alright, so I'm going to do the same thing with the other piece, and then I'll bring you back and we're going to put a coating of mustard and the seasoning on it. Alright, so this is sorted. Here is my seasoning. Here's my mustard. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a generous dollop of mustard. Now, this helps to keep moisture in. It helps the crust stick to it. It's a big part of making these super delicious. So all I do is I coat it with the mustard first. Every surface gets a good slathering in the mustard. Into the little nooks and crannies as well. Well coated in that mustard. Same thing for the other one. It's a very messy job, this one, but it's so worth it. Alright, so we've got that all coated. Now I'm just going to give my hands a quick wash. Now we need to coat it with the rub. So all I generally do is just pat it on. And then flip. Sometimes I get someone else out here with another set of hands but as long as I am only touching the outside of this jar, it's glass, it can be washed. So just do this pat it all on. Bit of onion, salt that was, I think, that hadn't broken up. And then all we do is we coat it all. So anything that's fallen off gets rubbed into it. Add a bit extra if needed. Bit in the rolled up bit as well. And just give it a really nice solid coat of that to go with the mustard, and then repeat the process with the other one. Collect up anything that's ended up on the board, make sure it's all coating the roast. Any that I can scrape off my hands as well. And then we've got 2 rub coated roasts ready to go in the smoker. Not that that camera angle was the best, but so now I'm just going to put probes in them. I'm going to wash my hands. I need to wash this jar too. Put probes in them and get them in the smoker. Probe in each one, right in the meat of them. And then, yeah, ready to go. And they will take, I don't know, 6-ish hours, but it'll be worth it. Alrighty, it is now 10 to 4. I've been out in the kitchen most of the day, but Mum came down from her place to spend some time, and so I didn't turn the camera on. The pork is just about ready to come out of this smoker though, so just before I grab that out to show you, I thought I'd show you what else we got done. So, we needed a new batch of chili oil. So there is new full batch of chili oil done. We needed a new batch of hot chocolate powder. So this is the kids' hot chocolate powder made with coconut milk powder. And then as a treat, I made them some marshmallow fluff, so maple marshmallow fluff that sets up like marshmallows. It's not set just yet, it's still a bit sticky. Once it sets up fully, I'll dust it with some cornstarch and cube it up, and then they can add a marshmallow to their hot chocolates. What else did we do? We did orange chocolate chip muffins, but in the loaf trays. So these were just the muffin mix that I always use, but I used a jar of the oranges off the shelf, as well as some chocolate chips, and we made these little, they're a little fragile, a little crumbly. So this is the first time I've used the oranges off the shelf in a muffin mix. Definitely needed an extra egg or something in these, but they're perfectly tasty, and we will still just pull them out and eat them regardless. So orange chocolate muffins. And I think that's it, other than making noodles for lunch as well. So I'm going to grab the pork out now. One of them, the probes, one of them has reached 64, one says it's hitting 60, so I'm going to double check them before I pull them out. We want them to hit the 64, which is medium rare for smoked pork. And then, yeah, I'll show them to you. This one, when I checked it, is 64 all the way through, but the other one was not. So the other one was slightly larger. So I'm just going to foil this one for the moment and let it sit and wait for its friend. So the dough that I put in the proofing box overnight did not proof enough to use for bread. I'm still figuring out, it's got a thermostat on it, but it definitely didn't seem to maintain the temperature. But of course the seedling mat can only do so much in certain temperatures, but we will see. I'm going to give it another go, but because of that, the dough has no structure to it. So what I've done is I've turned it into tortillas. So I'm just dry frying thinly rolled out portions of it, and we will have them with, I don't know, we'll have, there's some cabbage, I can make some coleslaw, smoked pork, cheese, whatever. So the dough is very, very fragile. So all I'm doing is rolling it very well floured, like I do my tortillas. Nice hot pan till it bubbles, and then flipping and then putting it in a tea towel so that they'll steam and stay soft. So just being very gentle with the dough and rolling it out to approximations of circles. I'm really not that fussed about the actual shape of it. We just want neutrally shaped pieces that are all fairly consistent sizes. Putting it in the pan until it bubbles up like this, and then flipping. Only takes a few, not even a minute probably on each side. And then just in the tea towel to stay warm and steamed. And then once I finish these, I will pull the pork out to slice. It'll have rested for long enough now, and I'll serve up. All right, so the pork is rested. The tortillas are, last one is just being flipped, and now it's just a matter of slicing the pork and serving it up.
Not only. What thing would you make for slicing pork?
I don't know. What sound would you make when you sliced pork?
I don't know. Chop, chop. Chop, 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 chop. Probably owl if I put my finger there right now.
Yeah. You gonna try anyway?
Well, I was going to wait till you stop chopping before I'm not that silly.
There you go. Steal some.
Thank you. It's not really stealing if you let me do it, by the way.
So, that's dinner tonight.